My brother won't believe he's victim of a romance scam because there is no apparent end goal. My brother is 19 years old and does not work. He dropped out of school after his junior year of high school. Since then, he has been pretty lost and never had a job. All he does is play video games all day long. He's currently trying to make it as a content creator/streamer, but it's not going too well as one might expect. A few months ago, he met a girl, Allison, on social media. She's supposedly a 19-year-old first-year med student who lives about 500 miles away from my brother, same country. They started dating over DMs, and they're officially together. They mostly talk over DMs, Instagram or WhatsApp, but apparently they've talked over the phone a couple times. A month ago, she asked him to move in with her. She lives on her own. My brother told her that he would love to do that, but couldn't, because he's so broke he wouldn't be able to help her with rent or groceries. She said that it was okay, that she has a lot of money, and she didn't need him to participate. He was stoked and agreed to come to her. So, he packed a bag, booked a train ticket and went to her city. When he arrived, she wasn't there. He called her. She said that a bipolar, abusive dad had heard her boyfriend was coming and was furious. He decided to move in with her to prevent my brother from coming, but she told my brother not to worry, and that she would pay for a hotel room for him until the situation got better. She never did. My brother was alone, in an unknown city, with no money. Luckily, we have a relative who lives nearby and who was able to offer my brother a place to sleep. My brother tried contacting Allison over the following days, but she didn't answer. He finally went back to his city. A few days later he got an answer. Her dad had confiscated her phone and tablet, and so she couldn't contact him or pay for a hotel room. Since then, she has been telling him the same story over and over again. My dad has my phone and my tablet, so I have to borrow a friend's phone to send you texts. That's why I barely talk to you. But in 2 weeks, my dad will be gone and you can come. Every 2 weeks. The dad is still here, but of course he will definitely be gone in 2 weeks. My brother wants to go as soon as the dad is gone. It seems very obvious to me that this is not real. I feel like nothing she says makes sense. He doesn't know anything personal about her. He doesn't know her last name, her address, the name of the university she supposedly goes to. We all told my brother that this is extremely sketchy, but he doesn't believe it's a scam. Thing is, I can't think of an end goal to the scam that would make sense, which makes convincing my brother harder. He's completely broke and she knows it. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't give her money. His mom is broke as well and our dad barely comes by. I would appreciate some insight as to if this is a scam, and what the end goal could be, as my brother plans on going back and I'm really worried. Any help is appreciated. I had to call an ambulance because Grandma decided to take a look in the kitchen with her grandchild. We had a birthday party with a family of 30 this morning. We're pretty family friendly and I showed everyone around a bit. One of the kids asked if they could see the kitchen. I told them that they're currently too busy inside because they're preparing a big catering order, a huge fucking €15,000 catering order. We had the reservations already turned off and a reduced menu, and I originally didn't want to take them in. The mom said she was fine with waiting times because they had games prepared. Grandma still decided the whole thing took too long and decided to investigate and took her now 4-year-old granddaughter with her. The automatic doors to the kitchen opens and they get a few steps inside. One of the cooks screams at them to get out. Another automatic door opens, slams against the kid. She trips and bangs her head against the wall. She had quite a wound for such a small head and I called an ambulance. I gave Grandma advice on how to behave properly in restaurants for future visits, and she ended crying in our dry store area/my office. They left a surprisingly big tip, but we had to clean the bloodstains ourselves. A birthday party to remember for everyone involved. Once you have it figured, there is no ceiling. I've been trading since about 2018. Never took it serious till about 2021. From 2021 to end of 2023, I did nothing but lose. Day in, day out, I lost. I knew I wanted to do this, but just couldn't crack it. Come end of 2023, and I cracked it. Not something that can work for everyone, more than likely. I know some trading styles work for some individuals, but not for others. So with me cracking it with a strategy that works for me, I have went from an account or $1,800 to $79,000 from January 1st to today. Insane amount percent-wise, but not insane dollar-wise, but am more than happy. With all this being said, I now know that when someone says, oh, how do I get to 1, 5, 10, 25K a month? How do I do it? I know it has zero to do with strategy once you have it figured. Now that I have a lock on my strategy, I can extract 5, 10, 20, 50, 70K from the market. Only thing that fundamentally holds me back is me. Me not upping size, etc., which is important. I know to never up more than I should be comfortable with. Also, with all this being said, me going from $1,800 to $79,000 in about 11 months, I have not made more than 2K on any one single trade. So no gambles, lucky trades, nothing. I trade Monday to Friday and do anywhere from 2 to 8 trades in the early market hours. What works for me I know doesn't work for the masses. But back to what the headline is. Once you have it figured out, there is no ceiling. Work to get there, then stay sane. After that, slowly size, and the world will begin to be yours. Any questions anyone has can try my best to respond in the comments. Godspeed, traders. AITAH for ruining my BF's birthday dinner cause I didn't accept it to pay for everyone. I, 20F, have been dating my BF Ryan, 21M, for about a year. For his birthday this year, I wanted to do something special, so I told him I'd take him out to a nice dinner. Just the two of us, and I'd cover the bill. He was super excited and agreed. So I made a reservation at a nice restaurant, put on a nice dress, and was so excited to see his reaction. When I got there, I was surprised to see that Ryan had invited his best friend, who also arrived with his GF. He hadn't mentioned anything about them coming. I was caught off guard, but thought, why not having a nice couple dinner? The whole time his best friend and his GF ordered a ton of appetizers and multiple drinks each. I started panicking a little because I realized this bill was going to be way more than I'd planned for. Toward the end, Ryan leaned over and said, "Don't forget, you said you'd cover it." I told him I agreed to pay for his dinner cause of his birthday and not for another couple I didn't even knew was coming. He said it's rude to invite people to dinner and not pay for them. At this point, I already thought WTF wrong with you and told him it's ruder to invite people to a dinner that someone else is paying for without telling them first. I already had the feeling to explode out of anger, so I just went quiet and waited for the waiter to finally pay. When the check came, I paid for my meal and his and told his buddy that he should cover the bill for himself and his GF. Both looked at me as if I had insulted them in some way, saying I embarrassed them in front of the server. In addition to that, Ryan even called me cheap and said I ruined his birthday. All this happened last Saturday, and since then he's been giving me the cold shoulder and just answered my messages with insulting me for embarrassing him in front of his friend. Now I'm thinking about breaking up because he is not talking to me since 1 week already, even though I wanted to apologize. Maybe some of you got any advice for me? Insurance rep insists on following the rules until she realizes the cost. Back in the mid-2010s, I had my phone insured through a premium bank account. The deal was simple: pay a fixed excess, and they'd either repair or replace your phone. The excess was the same whether it was a cracked screen or a full replacement, so it seemed like a solid arrangement. One day, I cracked my phone screen. It still worked fine, and I had a holiday coming up, so I decided to wait until I got back to file a claim. When I finally called the insurance company, the representative asked when the damage had happened. So I told her honestly. That's where the trouble started. She explained that I'd waited too long to report the damage. There was a time limit for claims, around 10 days, and I'd missed it. I explained that the phone was still usable, and I'd needed it for my trip, but she wouldn't budge. Rules were rules, she said, and my claim was invalid. Her tone was borderline smug. Fine, I thought, let's try some preemptive MC. Me, what should I do if the phone gets damaged further? Rep, you'd need to call us back and file a new claim, but make sure it's within the time frame. Me, got it. And I can't include the existing screen damage, right? Rep, correct. The new claim would have to be for unrelated damage. She seemed oblivious to where this was going, so I pressed on. Me, so how likely is it that a cracked screen could lead to water damage? If water got in and fried the motherboard, you'd most likely have to replace the whole phone, right? There was a long pause. Then she said she needed to speak to her supervisor. When she came back, her tone had changed. Suddenly, they were willing to overlook the missed time frame and process my original claim for the cracked screen. My mom has been using cards under my name, and I just reported fraud for one of them. Recently, I discovered on my credit reports that there was a few different credit cards under my name that I wasn't aware of. For background context, My mother has babied me since the dawn of time, and because of that I became codependent and very trusting. I hadn't had access to my credit reports since, well, I first started using credit cards. For the past couple of months my financial situation has been unbearable. My mother decided to make an immature decision and removed an ex-boyfriend from our current home. He would bring in money so we never had to worry about finances. Since she did that, she threw the responsibility of paying half of our rent, which I can't afford since I don't make nearly enough. I have other things I pay for like my car, phone, credit cards, etc. My bank account most of the time is in the negatives, and I have to ask my boyfriend for money at times to keep me afloat. Because of this, my relationship with her has kind of become turmoil. We fight more than we get along anymore, and it really hurts to know that she's done this to me. Today, I took it upon myself to finally report the card as fraud, and I cannot feel any more regretful. The card had a limit of $500, and because she hadn't been paying or keeping up with it, there's late fees. So, of course, my credit score continues to plummet. This doesn't include the other cards she's used and not paid back either. I don't want my mother arrested, but I told her that if this didn't stop I'd have no other choice but to report the card. I cannot afford to pay it back. I have $8,000 of acquired debt. I'm scared and worried about the outcome of this. If anyone could please give some kind of financial advice on this, I could really use the help. I feel so lost. I'm not even sure why I'm here. I just feel like I've been crying to my friends too much and they're gonna get annoyed with me soon. My wife is divorcing me, and I swear I don't understand why. We had a good life. Things suck now, but that's the entire world. Instead of us coming together to fight the world, she convinced herself I'm the root of her misery. She had untreated BPD, which I've been begging her to get help for, but she won't. I put her through school while I was a teacher, and it was a struggle. I had panic attacks being the sole provider. Went weeks without sleep, and then when she finally graduated and worked a nurse making over double what I made, suddenly the finances were in trouble. She wanted to act like we were on the verge of poverty while having $8,000 in the bank. I own the property so we don't pay rent and we have it made. I honestly don't understand what happened. How does the switch flip and you just don't love the person you made a lifelong commitment to? Why is it not worth working for? I lost my best friend and all I want to do is go to her, but she's the cause of my pain. I feel so empty. I have this awful pit in my stomach and all I can think about is the future I worked for that will never be. Before we met, she lived with her mom, was a nanny, and went to clubs. She met me with my life together and decided she could get hers together too. I encouraged that. After we are over, she has an amazing career and is able to live independently, and I'm in a job paying less, living in the same place I started. She took so much that I sacrificed and has the nerve to tell me I never provided for her. I just don't understand why. Edit. I want to thank everyone for their sympathy, and I did make a mistake. I believe she has bipolar 2, not borderline personality disorder. I was typing through tears, and I did mix up the acronyms. She's never been with a doc long enough to get a real diagnosis, so it could be actually BPD based on what some of you were willing to share with me. One day maybe she'll get diagnosed, but it's too late for our marriage. Please keep sharing. I will try and respond. This has really helped me. A vast majority of you are good people too and don't deserve what you got. They say misery loves company, but after hearing the pain and so many of you wish I was the only one dealing with it. You all deserve to take the advice you have given me. I'm usually the one who has to do the reassuring and helping. It's been hard for me to ask for it, but you have really helped. I send my love to you all and your pain. Another point I didn't mention, she was my first love. That's what makes this so much harder. To everyone assuming I'm weak and anyone else seeing this thinning showing emotion or weakness means you're weak is projection. It shows strength to admit when you're vulnerable. I am comfortable being vulnerable because of my strength. Feeling grief and sadness is normal and healthy. As Sun Tzu says, when you are weak, act strong. When you are strong, act weak. The weakest people are usually the ones most loudly proclaiming that others are weaker than them. James had a bad day at work. Part of my job involves calling a specific company several times a week to make sure they have correct information on files for our members. Usually the calls are pretty straightforward and take just 5 to 10 minutes. I called a few months ago and ended up with James' ID number XXXX, and he was one of those know-it-alls who makes life difficult for everyone. I'd give an ID number and the member's name and he'd sigh and change the way the name was pronounced. William Smithy, and he'd pronounce the last E. Bain Johnstone, and he'd pronounce the last E. He thought he was very smart, but really how annoyingly wrong can you be? Then when I tell him what I needed to update, he'd rephrase it into the exact same thing. So annoying. Really, if you hate your job that much, then find something else to do. The phone call that should have taken 10 minutes took 35, and at the end, I had to walk away from my desk to cool down. This morning I called and got James' ID number XXXX, and this is where the games began. I made him repeat things over and over again. Gave him wrong numbers that didn't come up in my system. Oops, sorry, it's this number. I made him wait while I checked my computer for things that were on a notepad in front of me, so I didn't really need to check a single thing. He'd type in notes and then I'd apologize and change the information. He was pissed and you could hear it in his voice, but I was sweet as anything and didn't change my way of communicating at all. At the end of the call, when he asked if there was anything else I needed, I said no. James, you were so much more helpful this call than the last time we spoke, and hung up. Was I on the phone much longer than needed? You betcha. So worth it. Can't wait to talk to James' ID number XXXX again. My fiancé, now husband, left our wedding rehearsal dinner early. I got married last week, but am still a bit upset about how my fiancé, 30 years old, at the time handled our wedding events. The main issue I had was that he left our rehearsal early. After just an hour of being at the rehearsal, he asked if him and the groomsmen could leave to go swim in the pool, also at our venue. I was trying to be understanding, but found the ask rude, as I planned the rehearsal party for our destination wedding and felt it was rude to want to leave our guests after just an hour to go play in the pool with the guys. I said, it's only been an hour, you shouldn't leave now, you're the groom. Then after another 45 minutes or so, he asks again if they can go to the pool. This time I just said sure, go ahead. At the end of the day, I shouldn't have done that, because afterwards I had some resentment that I was left entertaining our guests, etc. after planning everything for the event. I felt like I wasn't appreciated and was basically ditched. Am I overreacting? I never saw red flags at all until about 1 month before our wedding, when he started a new job without taking my thoughts into consideration. At the time, I didn't mind too much that he went against my advice by taking the job. It's not my job, so I was understanding at the end of the day it's his decision. But then I found out taking the job he knew he couldn't get off at all during the week of our wedding, for our rehearsal, or to help with any of the many things we had to get done, or for a honeymoon. This is besides the point and worked out okay, but I just felt like our wedding wasn't taken as seriously as it should be, as our rehearsal was a Friday and required a half day off work. He ended up being able to get Friday off, so I let it go. I only bring this up to make the point that the rehearsal ditching isn't the only thing that happened to make me feel like our wedding wasn't taken seriously. It makes me so upset, and I'm very hurt by what has happened and how he made me feel like not the priority during the month before our wedding and during the wedding weekend. I brought up how upset I was to him, and he apologized, saying he didn't realize how his actions would make me feel. Obviously, I didn't call off the wedding the day before over his actions and tried my best to move past it. But now I am having issues with resentment over what's happened and am looking for advice to help our marriage and my feelings of feeling so unappreciated in our relationship. Edit: I also should have noted the new job he took was a worse position. It was a demotion and a pay cut position. That is why my advice was to stay with his original job. He took the new job anyway because he didn't like his manager at his original job. TLDR, I feel like my now husband didn't take our wedding events seriously. He ditched our rehearsal to go hang out with his friends. I am struggling with resentment towards him after all the time and effort I put into wedding planning and how much our wedding weekend meant to me, yet I don't feel like he appreciated it and all the effort I put into it to make it special for us. Advice?